Hi there. I'm doing this video mainly because it's the sort of video I would have loved to have found on YouTube when I first got my Phantom 2 Vision Plus. As it was, most of the videos I found were about flyaways and crashes, and that scared the pants off me. But this video is really a good practice as to, well, I'm not saying it's the way to do it, but it's the way I do it. The first thing, when you get your Phantom 2 RTFM, read the manual, read the flipping manual, because although it's not the best manual in the world, there is an awful lot of information in here, and although 90% of it is not necessarily directly relevant to your first flight, there are a few things that you really need to look out for in this manual. The first one is compass calibration. The Phantom flies with a compass here which measures the Earth's magnetic field and the Phantom's orientation to that, and it also has a GPS located here. You need to know how to calibrate this compass, because when you first get your Phantom, it won't know the magnetic characteristics of the area that you're in. So the first thing you do is run through the calibration process and localize your Phantom to your flying area. And you need to do that if you travel any distance away from where you last did it, or where there are major changes, buildings, power lines. And as a rule, I don't fly near power lines if I can help it, but know how to calibrate your compass. Also, a good thing to know is how to interrupt the Phantom's return to home functionality. The Phantom, if it loses control signal, will automatically return to the point it took off, or the point it thinks was the point it took off. If it loses GPS signals, those points may vary, and I'll talk about that a bit later. But knowing how to interrupt the return to home process is very important. There's a story on one of the forums backed up by a video of a chap who was flying his Phantom from a boat on a lake. The boat drifted, he lost control, and his Phantom returned and landed in the lake. Cost him a lot of money, and at any point he could have flicked a switch and interrupted that return to home situation and saved himself an awful lot of money. Know how the DJI app works. Know what all the individual icons are, and know how to read those and why they're relevant to you. Battery remaining and the number of GPS satellite locks, very important. And whilst talking about GPS, my Phantom and a few others are afflicted with a situation whereby when you start recording video, noise generated here interrupts or interferes with the GPS reception, and you actually lose a satellite or two when you start recording. There is a mod out, and I've done a video on it. I'll get round to putting that up, but you need to do that mod to prevent that happening, and that's very important too. I would suggest that's a priority. Test to see if your Phantom's afflicted with this condition. There's other videos on the internet which will confirm that, or show you how to confirm that. And if it does affect your Phantom, go ahead and do that mod. It's very important. I do something which a lot of people don't do, which is plan my flights rigorously, almost like I'm in a real plane. Look at Google Earth, decide where you want to fly, look at the landmarks, look at potential obstructions, and basically you do the same thing when you get to your site. this time with your eyes. Look at things that might have changed since you looked at the Google Earth pictures, and look for obstructions, particularly things that might interrupt the return to home process. Take a note of the wind direction, very important in judging the amount of battery you use. You'll soon realise that the wind has a great effect on how far you can travel in a given amount of time. And if you decide to fit long-range aerial systems to your vision, then you really need to focus on battery life and wind conditions, and you get a good indication when you head off as to how fast you're going, as to which way the wind's going anyway. But I fly on an 80% battery rule. I always turn round when I've used 40% of my battery. So when my battery reads 60%, that's when I'm turning round and flying home. If I know I'm flying into a headwind, I'll probably turn round when I've got 70% battery. So it's very important. If you're going for a distance record, again, you need to really focus on that. Make sure before you take off that you follow the standard procedures of calibrating the compass. Make sure that your unit's got a full satellite fix, knowing the LED indications from reading the manual. And when you do take off, make sure you punch your Phantom into the air. Don't take off trying to be in complete control. If you've decided to take off and bring your Phantom up to a hover 20 feet in front of you, and use that hover as your final checklist time. Make sure your Phantom is sitting solid in the air, not drifting too much. If you want to record a video, start the video recording on your app. At the same time, check battery, check satellite on your app. You ideally want to have in excess of 7 or 8 satellites. I get concerned when I'm down to 7, so keep an eye on that. When you've had your flight and you're coming into land, much the same as taking off, when you get a few feet off the ground and there's nothing to stopping you landing, commit to that landing and put it down. Don't try and be too gentle. If you think you're coming down a little bit too fast, it's often better just to put the bird down. And finally, one of the things that I think is invaluable, and I wish I knew from day one when I had my Phantom, is get yourself one of these, a mini quad. This one's a Hubsan, and they don't have the GPS receiver, so flying one of these is similar to flying a Phantom in ATI mode without the GPS intelligence. So if you get good at flying one of these around your lounge and you don't bump into things, and you can fly backwards and forwards, but you can also fly in a square, turning, learning how to fly when you're coming nose in, then when there's an emergency, when you lose GPS, when you have to fly your Phantom, you can fly your Phantom. And that's one of the biggest flyaway issues, is just a loss of GPS. Being able to switch into ATI mode and being able to fly in ATI mode is probably one of your greatest insurances against losing your Phantom 2. Okay, don't forget to subscribe by clicking there, and you can see my long range flights and my long range modifications. Okay, cheers.